Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Ethnic Families Today. My name is Malia Costa, and I'm here with Caitlin Duffy. Caitlin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Malia. I hope you're doing well. Today we have breaking news regarding COVID-19. More than 22 million workers in the United States have become unemployed due to the violent spread of COVID-19. Now, this is affecting families all around the world, including undocumented immigrant families. These families are not able to file for unemployment, they will not receive government assistance, and they may either be out of a job completely or still having to work, possibly exposing themselves to the virus. Malia, how do you think this will affect undocumented individuals and families in the long run?
That's a great point, Caitlin, and a great question. I think families all throughout the United States will be affected by this virus for a very long time, undocumented or not. Although undocumented families who have already had a hard time with most things living in the US, after COVID-19 does its course, I think these families will have a much harder time. I believe that a lot of these families will face financial insecurity at an all-time high. Undocumented post-secondary students may no longer be able to provide an education for themselves due to unemployment rates, since many of them do pay for their own tuition.
Yeah, you make a good point there. These undocumented college students already do face a lot of difficulties as is, and COVID-19 is definitely an added stressor. Many of these students did not get financial support from their families or even federal financial aid. So even getting accepted in a college is tough enough already. For those who are accepted, they face other issues as well, such as a feeling of isolation on campus from their peers, not knowing who they can trust with their undocumented status, and even discrimination. Now, let's take a look at this table to get an idea of the number of undocumented students enrolled in college. As you can see, there are 11.5 to 12 million undocumented immigrants of all ages living in the United States. However, only 7 to 13,000 undocumented students are enrolled in college throughout the United States. About 5 to 10% of undocumented students pursue a higher education, and far fewer successfully graduate with a degree.
Thank you for that, Caitlin. I was unaware of how low the success rates for undocumented immigrants earning a degree actually were. To add to that, there is an explanation for why those numbers are as low as they are. Although the federal law does not prohibit undocumented immigrants from attending colleges and universities, every state has their own legislation regarding admittance of undocumented students. 3 U.S. states that do not allow the admittance of undocumented students include Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama. Out of all 50 states, only 16 of those states offer in-state tuition for undocumented students. However, they do have to meet certain requirements based on the state that they are applying to. The states that do not offer in-state tuition leave their undocumented students with a lesser chance of being capable of supporting themselves and their education, as they are not eligible for federal student aid, loans, or scholarships. Undocumented students most likely are not receiving financial support from their families and cannot support themselves as well as support an education due to their financial insecurity during COVID-19 and in general. On top of not qualifying for financial support for their education, undocumented immigrants also do not qualify for work visas, which would provide benefits potentially including state-funded work-study programs.
I agree with the reasons as to why the numbers for obtaining a college degree are so low. You make a good point there, Malia. Although undocumented students face many obstacles, there are some laws within the United States that can be beneficial to them. FERPA, or the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, is a federal law that protects the privacy of a student's education records. This act grants specific rights to students, which include the right to see any information the institution has on the student, the right to seek amendment to their records, the right to consent to disclosure of their records, and the right to file a complaint with the FERPA office. DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, allows certain individuals who came to the United States as children to request consideration of deferred action for 2 years, subject to renewal, if they meet several guidelines. This makes them eligible for work authorization, which could help them with gaining work experience while in college. As you can see, undocumented students may request DACA if they meet certain requirements regarding their age, time in the United States, high school education, and if they have not committed crimes. An estimated 13% of the 11.4 million undocumented immigrants are eligible to apply for the expanded DACA program. As Malia was saying, this gives us a visual as to how DACA has improved access to education for undocumented students.
You know, Caitlin, since we are discussing the different states' laws on undocumented immigrants' educations, we should take a look at the state that we reside in and the university close to us. At the University of Nevada, Reno, the DACA and FERPA guidelines are followed, as well as resources are offered to the undocumented students. These resources include academic support, educational protections and benefits, legal support, in-state tuition as long as guidelines are met, which are listed in the picture provided, as well as state aid and private scholarships can be applied to.
I do think it is fantastic that at least some schools provide in-state tuition for undocumented students and give them at least a little bit of a chance. However, I do believe there's room for improvement. Different ethnic families, including undocumented families, are being more affected by this world pandemic. This is important to think about because these families come to the United States for better opportunities and are not supported by the U.S. to succeed, and especially now, they'll be more behind than ever before in many aspects of life, such as financially, academically, and more.
I absolutely agree that life will be a lot harder for these families. However, before this pandemic, they have had to face many barriers throughout life that regular U.S. citizens have not. Although right now are tough times for the United States and all around the world, undocumented immigrants are not given a chance to succeed in general. The United States is built on getting a higher education, which gives you a chance or access to higher paying jobs. However, these undocumented students cannot financially afford school themselves, or even their families cannot. They are not offered much help as far as financial aid or scholarships are concerned, and sometimes they're not even accepted into universities because of their citizenship status, which leaves them unable to get the education needed to succeed in the United States. I believe that if we are going to allow immigrants into the United States, we need to support them more in many aspects of life in order to allow them to succeed and honestly improve a lot more just in the United States in general as a whole.
Yeah, you make a great point, and I absolutely agree with that. Undocumented immigrants have a bad rep as far as contributing to the homelessness rates, crime rates, etc. However, if we support them more in the many aspects of life, they would have better chances of succeeding and would not have to succumb to contributing to those populations and statistics. If we gave them a better chance to succeed, our economy and many other things would improve tremendously. I think Millie and I both agree that after COVID-19 does its course, there needs to be changes made for those undocumented families who will be suffering due to job loss. More resources need to be implemented for these families, as well as more support in general from the country that they came to have a better life in.